The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is more than just numbers on a page. It's a vital economic indicator that reflects the ebb and flow of our daily expenses. Consumer price data, commonly known as the Consumer Price Index, CPI, is a critical economic indicator used to measure the average change in prices paid by consumers for goods and services over time. This data helps to gauge the cost of living and the inflation rate within an economy. Basket of goods and services. The CPI is based on a fixed basket of goods and services that represents the consumption habits of a typical household. This basket includes categories such as food and beverages, housing, apparel, transportation, medical care, recreation, education, and communication, other goods and services. It measures the average change in prices over time for a basket of goods and services, providing insight into the cost of living and the rate of inflation within an economy. At the heart of the CPI is a basket of goods and services, mirroring what a typical household might spend its money on. From the bread on your table to the roof over your head, categories like food, housing, apparel, and transportation are all part of this mix. But how do we capture the cost? Prices are collected from a variety of sources, including stores, service providers, and utility companies, and updated periodically to keep the index current. Each item in the basket is weighted, reflecting its importance in an average household's budget, ensuring that the CPI is a true representation of consumer expenditure. There's not just one CPI, but several, each tailored to different segments of the population. The CPI for all urban consumers, or CPI-U, is the broadest, covering a whopping 93% of the U.S. population. Then there's the CPI for urban wage earners and clerical workers, known as CPI-W, which zooms in on about 29% of the population. And let's not forget the changed CPI, or CPI-U, which adjusts for the way we might switch between products as prices fluctuate, aiming for a more precise measure of how our cost of living changes over time. Why does the CPI matter to you and me? Well, it's the primary tool for measuring inflation, guiding policymakers like central banks in their decisions about interest rates. It's also the yardstick for cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, ensuring that Social Security and other benefits keep pace with inflation. Beyond that, economists and analysts pore over CPI data to understand price trends and economic conditions, influencing everything from business planning to policy formulation. And if you've ever signed a contract with a clause that adjusts payments based on CPI changes, you've seen it in action, protecting against the eroding effects of inflation. Types of consumer price indices: CPI for all urban consumers, CPI-U. This is the most comprehensive index and covers approximately 93% of the total U.S. population, including professionals, the self-employed, the unemployed, and retired individuals, among others. CPI for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPI-W. This index is a subset of the CPI-U and covers about 29% of the U.S. population. It focuses on households of wage earners and clerical workers. Changed CPI, CPI-U. This version accounts for changes in consumer behavior, such as substitution between different items when prices change. It is designed to provide a more accurate measure of cost of living changes. But the CPI isn't perfect. It faces challenges like substitution bias, where the fixed basket doesn't fully capture our tendency to swap goods as prices change. Then there's the headache of adjusting for quality changes over time, not to mention the rapid introduction of new products and technologies. And let's not forget geographical differences. What's happening price-wise in one region might not match the national average. In conclusion, the Consumer Price Index is a crucial tool for understanding our economy, shaping policy, and safeguarding our income against inflation. Despite its challenges, it remains an indispensable part of economic analysis and planning.